Today on Green Country People and Places.
Welcome to Made. This is our Made, the Indie Emporium shop. It's a store collective of handmade art, craft, and some fashion.
The Persimmon Hollow Village has been here since 1956. It was built as a private museum. There's everything in here from antiques, collectibles, arts and crafts, and on-site craftsmen making things here on the weekends.
My dad, before he ever bought the factory, started a shop. He was a school teacher at Central High School, and he started a shop after hours called Glenn's Customs.
Oklahoma's Green Country. It's full of unique places and interesting people.
This is a great place to come if you're a Leon nut.
I feel like I should have pointy ears looking through this.
So come along with us
This thing's huge.
and enjoy the ride.
Welcome to Made. This is our Made, the Indie Emporium shop. It's a store collective of handmade art, craft, and some fashion. It's birthed out of our event that we put on, Indie Emporium. Put on a big festival every year for the last 7 years where we bring artists from around the country. We've had a huge response. People in Tulsa love it, so we open a shop so we have a presence year round.
What does the event Indie Emporium provide to Tulsa? What is unique about it that makes it interesting?
You know, there are a lot of art and craft shows, and there are, tends to lack originality. So what we've done is we've gone after young, hip crafters, people who have learned these things from their grandparents, you know, usually, and then they take and make a twist on it. My wife does screen printing and tea towels like this here, where she takes a traditional medium for fine artists, printmaking, and she bases her design aesthetic on the William Morris quote, "Have nothing in your home that's not both beautiful and useful." So instead of just doing print, she decided she wanted things that people could put into action. So she started making tea towels, pillows, homewares with her own original designs. So here's another example. She'll take her artwork. She'll take her own artwork. She designs the boot, does the font, the lettering, and burns the screen. Then we start printing together. She's the creative genius behind it, and I'm grunt labor.
Eclectic is probably a good term for the store itself, right? Because you have a little bit of everything.
We do. We have, we go from this. We have clothing, traditional art, you know, things you would hang on your wall. We have cards, jewelry.
This area is called the Pearl District, right?
It is.
And you are the president of what now?
The Pearl District Association. We're a group of businesses and residents in the Pearl District who are committed to maintaining what the neighborhood is, what the neighborhood, and expanding what the neighborhood could be. The big thing we've been pushing for years, working with the city for 13 years to get form-based code to preserve the feel of the neighborhood, and that's part of what drew us to this area. It's coming alive with the Phoenix across the street, and there are a lot of other creative businesses moving in. It's quickly becoming an up-and-coming artist area.
Well, I noticed that because when we were pulling up, I remember this area, but it looks the same, but it's not the same. It's now kind of vibrant, but it's subtle. You don't have big flashy signs, but you have a lot of unique businesses in here, right?
We do. We have a lot of unique businesses that are, again, committed to the integrity of the neighborhood, what it is. There's an art bar down the street. You can, 2 doors down, you can walk, you know, when you walk out, you see it, called Lot 6. You know it, you know there's something going on there, but it's still this beautiful building that's, for the most part, the facade is unchanged from what they were, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago. There's Clean Hands, a group of street artists, graffiti artists, and then, you know, there's a studio, Manic Pixie Studio, just around the corner. May Yang, a screen printer, just opened her shop here. So it's an area that's really organically drawing the creative community. Well, this is Bohemian Romance, the girl Sam Extance here in Tulsa, who is making steampunk, which is really popular right now.
Now, for the older folks, steampunk is?
Steampunk is taking, it's a time that never really existed. It's taking these old, very mechanical pieces, like you've got gears and things here, and making them new. So you may see there's literary genre, films, everything based on steampunk. And what she's doing is she's taking found objects that would not traditionally be found in jewelry. For example, clock parts that you see, gears, and really making it something cool and beautiful at the same time.
For someone my age, I think I found something that I can relate to.
Oh, these are great ties. This is from a local couple here, Jessica and Carlos, with the company Month of May. And they take vintage fabrics and turn them into something new instead of letting them, you know, fall by the wayside, get thrown away. They take the vintage fabrics and make them into something really hip. The skinny ties, which are in, and the bow ties. They had their first show at Emporium last year, and since their business has exploded. And you can see why. I mean, these are not the typical ties you're going to find everywhere. Each one is unique. It has its own character. It has its own flavor.
I think this one's speaking to me. I really do.
I think you need it.
Got to dress up a little bit for this show once in a while. I've seen that somewhere before.
Yeah, strangely enough, I'm wearing it right now. I had to buy it myself. When we go out of town to shows, you would be surprised, well, probably not, but how many people think Oklahoma is just a bunch of people on horses still to this day? We went to Chicago and did Renegade there, selling my wife's wares, and had people, they had no idea there was a cool art scene in Tulsa that we've made it past 1820.
Well,
But,
speaking of cool, whose t-shirts are these?
These are Cody Jensen. He has a company, Darby and Dash. He's a graphic designer and does really cool work on shirts here. A lot of them have an Oklahoma flair, like the native Oklahoma, or it's not all cowboys and Indians. And really does a lot, and there are, tons here. One of the popular ones he has is this. It's I Heart My City. We have people love these for gifts and who are coming in from out of town. It just focuses on
Oh, I see. Canes, Riverwalk, Blue Dome, Woodward Park. That's nice.
Yeah, it's got, all the cool places in Tulsa you'd want to check out while you were here. So at part of our show every year, we have an art gallery. And this year we decided we wanted to make it a little more engaging. So we did an Instagram crowdsourced art gallery. What we did was we had Instagram artists tag all their photos with hashtag Emporium Art, and our committee got together and we looked to find the 50 coolest that we liked the most. And we partnered with this company, Hatchcraft, and they take and make these fancy wooden frames and then mount the photos on them.
That is really nice.
So
that looks like a place we've been before.
I think that's over at the Max Retro Pub.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is nice. And I like the way that you're mixing the new medium of art with the electronic medium to get some excitement and get people going on this too.
Oh, absolutely. And it's engaging people. With the age we live in with technology, so many people are capturing their everyday life in really cool ways, but there's no way to showcase that to the world except online. So what we wanted to do was find a way that we could actually create an art gallery on everyday art.
The Persimmon Hollow Village is located 1 block east and 1 block north of 71st and Garnett in Tulsa, behind the Salvation Army Family Store up on the frontage there of 71st. It's been here since 1956. It was built as a private museum between 56 and about 66. And then 3 acres of the 20 acres here was bought out by a antique dealer for 28 years, starting in 78. And it was called Persimmon Hollow Antique Village. So it's been around a long time. It's a 3-acre facility. It's got 16 buildings, all 1880s themed buildings on a 300-foot long main street. It's been called a miniature silver dollar city here.
Well, it's really beautiful, but at the same time, being an old feel of an old town, you've got a lot of eclectic shops in here, don't you? You have everything.
Yeah, there's everything in here from antiques, collectibles, arts and crafts, and on-site craftsmen making things here on the weekends.
Is there a lot of upkeep? I mean, this is beautiful. I mean, it really looks like we just stepped back in time.
It's a tremendous amount of upkeep, maintaining 16 buildings that were built in 1956 to 66. It's patterned after Dodge City, Kansas, 1880s. We have a hotel with Miss Kitty's room overhead and the whole 9 yards.
And I love the water wheel behind us. You said your wife built that?
My wife, Kathy, built that all by herself, but she did let me help her roll it down the hill here to get it mounted with a crane. It's a 9-foot diameter and 600 pounds.
You know, this is really scenic. I know it's going to be packed with people later when it opens, and so we're lucky to be here early in the morning, but it's a beautiful place. And I'm looking up there. What the heck is the Squirrel Hotel about?
Well, this was the hotel building with Miss Kitty's room overhead, and a whole family of squirrels was raised in there a couple of years ago, so now there's several families in there, and all those holes up there all interconnect. They go in one hole and peek at us at the other.
Are you kidding me? And Miss Kitty from Gunsmoke?
Yes, Miss Kitty's room is upstairs overhead, as in the old Gunsmoke TV show, and the entrance to her room is right here.
I notice it's padlocked right now.
we rent that out as one of our stores.
You do. And so you don't just have permanent people here, you actually have some people come in for the events, and you do special things.
We have 3 to 6 festivals a year and special events.
And this isn't just a shopping experience, it really is an experience of getting into someplace different than you normally would be, right?
It's just a hidden oasis in town, in the concrete jungle here, so you don't even hear all the noise of 71st and 169 back here. You hear the birds and the squirrels are running around, and it's just a little oasis in town here now that's completely hidden from view.
Take me riding in the car, take me riding in the car, take you riding in my car, I'll take you riding in my car.
Doug, we are here in the Duesenberg factory.
It's the Aburn-Cord-Duesenberg factory.
Oh, okay, right.
Aburn-Cord-Duesenberg.
ACD.
That's right.
Now this is a very special car to you. Why?
Yes, this is what I'm getting ready to do, believe it or not. My dad, before he ever bought the factory, started a shop. He was a school teacher at Central High School, and he started a shop after hours called Glenn's Customs. This was his very first custom car. It actually belonged to my grandmother. It was a 1953 Dodge Wayfarer. He turned it into a pickup, made it a custom car, made his own hubcaps, had wide white wall tires on it, and had on the side of it painted Glenn's Customs. When he bought the factory, trying to raise money, he sold this car. Well, about 20 years ago or so, I was out kind of junking or picking, wandering through an old car salvage, and I run into it. I see it there, and I know it's Dad's because it still said Glenn's Customs on the side. Never been repainted. The engine had been pulled out of it. It just sat there in the weather for a lot of years. The gentleman sold it to me for $500, and I drug it home with the idea of building it back to its former glory when he built it in the 50s. But I'll put modern drivetrain, modern engine and everything in it, but I'm going to paint it back the same color. I'm still going to put Glenn's Customs back on the side of it and have it looking just like it did then.
Now these are some of the parts you hauled in that pickup truck?
This is the original parts bins and all the original new old stock parts.
So this stuff is from what era then? What year?
1930s.
1930s.
Now there's some 20s stuff in here. We bought parts from the 20s through about 1937.
What's behind here?
Oh, this is just back in part of the old original parts department, and the secret room is back here.
The secret room?
The secret room.
Wow, a little dark.
Yeah, it was put up temporarily in 1964. And one light bulb still works in 64. It was built to house the very first Glen Prairie cord that was built in 1964 was built on this table. And it was a leveling table they had built.
So the leveling table kept the whole frame
Right.
straight and everything?
And the room was built to keep it in secret until its debut. Well, the very first car was being built in secret in this room, and nobody had seen it. And it was getting ready to be debuted at the Tulsa Assembly Center. And during the build, that door opened, and it was hot summertime. And there's a big camera trying to push its way through the door, and a reporter, and my father looks up and he sees it's Walter Cronkite. And he was trying to get ahead of all the other reporters for the debut as the car was being finished. And Dad closed the door in his face and told him he had to wait just like everybody else. One thing about Dad, as a kid, he always treated us like an adult, gave us adult responsibilities. And the cars, when Dad would sell a car, the standard deal was a person gave a $5,000 deposit. Then we would test drive the finished car for 500 miles. And then the customer would drive in, pay the balance, and drive the car home. But some people didn't want to drive the car home. And an example of that would be one, Rod Serling of Twilight Zone fame. He bought a car from Dad, and he wanted it delivered to his home in Hollywood. And so Dad, trusting me as a 16-year-old kid, said, you drive it there, you deliver it. So I got to get in a brand new 1967 Auburn that belonged to Rod Serling and drive it to Hollywood, and then flew home from there. So I met Rod Serling at his house, pulled in front of his circular driveway, went and knocked on the door. His wife answered, and I said, I'm here to see Rod Serling with his car, and said, oh, just a minute, he just fell down the stairs. He saw the car driving up, and he got so excited he fell down the stairs.
Oh, no.
So he comes out, opens the passenger side of the car, slides in, closes the door, and burns rubber out the driveway, and I'm standing there. He's driving around the block. He comes back in, and he says, you want me to call you a taxi? And that was about it. And I said, well, do you want us to show you how to put the top up? And he goes, no, I'll figure it out. Well, a couple of weeks later, phone rings down there, and Dad answers the phone. He says, this is Rod Serling. And he's saying, it's raining here. How do you get this damn top up? So, yeah, there's been a lot of famous people buy cars over the years. Dick Clark bought one of them. And of course, if you're going to buy this type car, it's usually people that have money. A four-star general bought the first Auburn. They've gone all over the world. The King of Morocco bought one, and it was shipped to the King of Morocco. It was being presented to him by his government at his birthday party. And at his birthday party, there was actually a coup at the time, and machine guns came into the party with the Auburn at the party. And the king didn't get killed. Nobody's ever seen the car since.
Climb, rattle on the front seat, spree, I prattle on the back seat. Turn my key, step on the starter, take you riding in my car. Engine, it goes engine, it goes front seat, back seat, boys and girls, take you riding in my car.
That is a spectacular vehicle. Now this is what they made in the 30s?
Yeah, this is a Duesenberg. Now, Duesenberg was the ultimate car of the time, and it still is today. You've heard the term, it's a doozy.
Yeah.
That's where this came from. It's a Duesenberg. It's a real Duesenberg. But this was a second generation Duesenberg that my father built, and I helped him build it in the 90s with all original parts. So every part on it could be interchanged with an original 1932 Duesenberg, but it was built with, it's got hidden power steering in it. It's got a V12 motor in it. It's a 100+ mile an hour car. It's got all the nostalgia of the day, but not the expense. If this was built in 32 and had its real pedigree, this car would be $1 million+, and heavy on the plus side. But this car, like it is still, because the name Glenn Prey is attached to it, and it's the only Duesenberg he ever built. It's still probably a $500,000 car. And I know it's a $500,000 car because there's a funny little story with that. When we first debuted it at the Aburn-Cord-Duesenberg Festival in Auburn, Indiana, when it was just finished, and I was there with him, and it was in the late 90s, a gentleman came up and said, Glenn, I want to buy your Duesenberg. And he said, well, it's not for sale. He said, I've always wanted a Duesenberg. I won't sell it. And he said, oh, there's got to be some price. And he pulled out his checkbook, and he wrote a check out for $500,000. And he says, I want that car. And Dad came over, and he was talking to me, and he said, $500,000 for one car. He said, he said, should I sell it? And I said, Dad, $500,000, that's the biggest sell you've ever made. I said, of course you should take it, $500,000. So he turned around and he walks back to the guy and he comes back and I said, you didn't sell it, did you? And he goes, no. And I go, why not? And he said, well, he said a couple reasons. He said, if I brought home $500,000, I wouldn't have a Duesenberg. He said, my wife would get half the money, Uncle Sam would get the other half, and I wouldn't have a Duesenberg, so I'm not going to sell it. True story.
I'm gonna let you blow the horn. I'm gonna let you blow the horn. Well, I'll take you riding in my car.
So when your dad started making the cars, this is what he started making, right?
Right. When he said, I'm going to come out with an ageless automobile, the last Cord had been built in 1937. In 1964, he started designing this car. Gordon Burig, the original designer of the 37 model, was a good friend of his and said, Glenn, you need to scale it down because the new trend is small. The new Mustang was coming out.
This is a two-seater.
And so it was a little two-seater, and originally they had what they called a cabriolet that had two seats, but they also had a Phaeton that had a back seat. Well, he wanted it to be front-wheel drive because there were no front-wheel drive cars in America since World War II. And the original Cord pre-World War II was front-wheel drive. So he said, well, I'm going to scale my car down and make it front-wheel drive. And the only transaxle engine in America at the time was the Corvair engine because they were in the rear of the car. So they took a Corvair engine, moved it to the front, made it front wheel drive. US Rubber built the body according to Dad's design specs. The entire body's made out of plastic. The car is front wheel drive. The car has hideaway headlights. So if you stop and think about it, hideaway headlights didn't come about until the 60s. Plastic on cars certainly didn't happen. This was the first plastic car in the world. Front wheel drive, everything's front wheel drive now. This was the first. And then Tornado came out right after that. So this is a very, very innovative car. They built 97 of these cars, and this was the number 4 prototype. It actually, as bad as it looks, it's only got like 17 miles on it. This was brand new, and it went through a tornado back in the 60s, and that's the damage you see to the paint. But you also see that the body's not cut or damaged or dented because the thermoplastic body wouldn't dent. It was called a safety car at the time. Dad always said if you ever are in a wreck in one of these, you won't get cut to death. You might get squeezed to death, but not cut to death because it's all plastic.
So this is your dad's crowning achievement, right?
Yeah, this is number 17 of 17 of these built. My father designed this car himself. It's a patent on the design. So this car never existed in 1936. He designed this in 1974, so the name of the car is 874, 8 cylinders, designed in 74. It's a dual cow Phaeton. It was originally would have been in the 30s a chauffeur-driven car. So the passengers in the back, it's got a full set of instruments in the back, and the passenger could tell the chauffeur what to do.
Oh, you can
if
see
they
the
were
speed
speeding
and
or
yeah.
too many RPMs or whatever it might be.
And this one really harkens back to the old Duesenberg. I mean, it really has the classic lines. It's got that big size to it, and it's regal looking.
Well, he said that if he had lived in 1930s, this is the car he would have designed. In fact, Gordon Burig himself, the famous designer, saw this car for the first time and said, Glenn, I didn't know you were such a stylist. I mean, he got a very good compliment from Gordon Burig, the #1 designer of all time, who designed most of the Aburn-Cord-Duesenbergs that are so famous today. But this is his own one and only design. This is the last car built off the assembly line. He'd had a heart attack, decided to shut down production, and he finished this car himself. So this was number 17 of 17 of these built, and there's no more. And the value of these has really gone up since he passed away, and since they are, people want to call them a reproduction, but it's not. It's a modern day version. It's what Glenn Prey envisioned the car would be in the 30s. So it's a modern day version, a second generation automobile, not a reproduction at all. It's a factory built car, 17 of them built. But the value skyrocketed on this car when it would have sold in 1981, when this one was built, would have sold for about $60,000, which was still a lot of money there. The price is over doubled on them. One came up for sale here about 2 months ago, and it brought $120,000. And we found one of the 17 that's for sale right now, and he's asking $200,000 for it.
Wow!
Because it's Glenn Prey. The value is in the name now too, and it is his own design. So yeah, it's exciting to still be able to have this car. We use it in parades. My kids, when they got married, I got to chauffeur them out of the wedding. So my son, the bride in the back, my daughter and her husband in the back, and we drove them out of the church parking lot in it, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a good wedding car. The hood ornament on this car is very special. The original hood ornaments are called a Flying Lady. This one is an original Lalique, made in France, cast glass hood ornament. It actually lights up in 4 different colors as you drive down the street. Just the hood ornament alone is very, very rare. None of the Auburn production cars ever had this on it, only a few special ones. But when he built his last car, he said, I'm going to put an original Lalique on my car. So that hood ornament is a work of art in itself. We're real proud of this car. It is probably my favorite of all the cars we've ever had around here. And what is nice about it, it's got a Ford 460 motor in it. It's extremely fast. It's got an automatic. It's even got air conditioning. So you have all the ambiance of the 30s, but everything in it works like a modern car.
And wherever you look, if you think about it too, this is your dad.
This is Dad. This is Dad.
Front seat, back seat, boys and girls, take you riding in my car. Trees in the houses walk along, trees in the houses walk along. Truck and a cart and a garbage can, I'll take you riding.